Hello everyone, I'm Puneet from tkhts.com. I'm a corporate trainer by profession and I've trained numerous personnel from various organizations like Cognizant, Persistence, UST Global, Hexaware, NIT Technologies, and many others. In this video, I'm going to help you create a simple copycat application and compare it with JQuery. So we are really going to look at how an AngularJS application is different when it is compared to a JQuery application. For this particular application, we are going to be using WebStorm IDE, which is from JetBrains, and it is not open source, so it is a commercial variant that is available. I could have used any other text editor since the application that we are going to create is only going to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because AngularJS is a framework built on JavaScript. But the IDE that we are going to use is really supports AngularJS, jQuery, and many other JS. Get in quick help when you need, and I'm going to introduce you to this IDE. So the first thing that we're going to create is a new project, and you could name your project anything. So I'm just going to have this named as an Angular demo for this particular example, and I'm going to use this window which opens up the project in the same window itself. The next step is we're going to create an HTML file, and let's just name this jQuery versus Angular app. The moment you create an HTML file, you'll get some code already here, and you can just fill in the content that you want. So I'm just going to name it again jQuery versus AngularJS, and this happens to be your title. The best part about this IDE is that it comes with an inbuilt server, and so you can hover your mouse to the right side of the screen and you'll see all the browsers that are installed on your machines, and if you click on one, it just opens up and deploys this on a server. So you have an application which is up and running on the server on just one click, and you don't really have to explicitly do a server restart. So it just shows up the title as jQuery versus AngularJS. The next step is I'm going to write up a script, and the first thing that we're going to do is write a jQuery application. So I'm just going to copy and paste the script for including jQuery. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Now, traditionally, the script tag has always been placed into the head section, but it is always a good practice to do it at the end of your body so that the DOM rendering can happen even before your scripts they start to execute. And this can really make your applications responsive because script executions can take time, and if they take time, then your application will still wait for these scripts to execute first. So this is just among good practices. You would also notice that we've not specified a protocol, and this really helps when you're using a IDE like this, which can really deploy your application on HTTP or HTTPS. So it'll just replace the protocol on which you're going to run this application. In case you use the file system, it is going to be replaced by the file. So the protocol used for fetching up this jQuery min.js is going to be the same on which you really deploy this application. The next step to write up a application on jQuery is, of course, we need to write some kind of a script which is going to do something. So like I said, this is a simple copycat application. What we're going to do here is have an input text box. Input type is text, and I'm going to be using HTML5's placeholder and enter some text here. And then whatever we type into this text box, we're going to be copying this into a div here. Now, if you have really worked with jQuery before, the way it really works is that you got to fetch this particular element's value and put it here. So I think even before we do that, we need to really wait for the DOM to render. So the way you do it in jQuery, you'll have to wait for the document to be ready. That means the DOM is ready for any manipulation, and then you can have some code written into this function, right? Now, since I want to capture the value of this text box, it will be good if I can really have this associated with a certain ID. So I'm just keeping this as ID equal to name, and then I can use a selector from here to fetch a value of this particular name. And so since jQuery uses the CSS syntax, and I can use a hash to capture the value like this. But this cannot happen unless I really tie up this with some sort of an event. And since there is no button, we cannot really make an explicit call from here. We'll probably use a key up or a key down event to replace the value into the div section. So the way we can really do this is have on the name itself a key up event, which is again a function in itself, and that really does something. So whatever we write here happens on the key up or when a user really enters something into the text box. So what I'm really going to do is replace the value of this name into this div, and again I'll, for this purpose, need some sort of an ID here to uniquely identify this. Otherwise, it might just fetch me a wrong kind of an element. So this is a usual practice around selecting using selectors in jQuery. So what I really do here is I'll fetch this element and then replace the HTML, which is a function in jQuery. And what I really need to replace this is using a selector again, and which again really means selecting the name using the ID, which is what really hash does. And I need a value function to get me the value of this. So what really this is going to do is make your name, when you write in this, the key function, since it is associated with it, is just going to copy the value into some div. So let's just see how it really works. So when you type in something like "we make IT easy," it just writes it back. So simple copycat application using jQuery. So we've seen this is in jQuery. Now let us try to transform this into an AngularJS application and see what is the difference going to look like. So the best part about AngularJS is that we're not going to be needing any scripts, and so I can just comment it all from here. Of course, it's not going to work on the jQuery JS, so I'm going to copy the script for AngularJS. So I'll just go down to the script and replace it with this. And so, of course, I'll comment this section. This needs to be closed, the script tag. And instead of writing any JavaScript here, what I'm going to do here is write in ng app. What really ng app is, at this point, it will not be the right time to discuss, but I think we'll just keep this short and simple, keep this as a mandatory thing that you need in AngularJS application. But what is more important here is that I can use a two-way binding feature available from AngularJS, and I can use this to bind to something called as a name. Don't confuse between the ID name here and this name here. So I'll just keep this as name1 maybe, just to avoid any kind of confusion from here. And the thing that we have binded on, I'm going to use an expression to display the same value. Just use the same value here to display the value. In this case, we are not using any sort of IDs here, so I can really go back and replace them or cut them out. So I can remove them. And this is your how your AngularJS application is going to look like. So if you go to your application and type in we make it easy, it just works the same way. Now to compare between AngularJS and JQuery, you can see here with JQuery there was a lot of DOM manipulation code that was needed, or good amount of JavaScript code needed to do this search and replace kind of thing on the DOM. And so you had to really wait for the document to get ready, bind it to a key of function, use the HTML and the value functions to fetch the values and replace. Here with AngularJS, it is minimal JavaScript, and at least in this particular example that we've done, there's no JavaScript at all. So it's just that it needs an ng model to bind to any value that you can put in here. So it's always a kind of a live view that this binding gets, and you can test this by including another input text box here, which if I name the same, like in this case, and since this is not an ID, you can really afford to bind two text boxes with the same variable name. And if you just kind of refresh and type in something here, we make IT easy, you'll see, this, it just kind of changes this as well. And type it in the other text box, that it also changes the first one and the place where you're writing your in form of expression. So what really ng bind does is a two-way binding. Anytime the model changes, and whoever changes this model, this is going to be reflected live. And imagine if the model really changes from an AJAX call where you're fetching from something from the server, and that gives you a live view without having to write any sort of DOM manipulation code. That'll be a whole lot of value. So, the best part about AngularJS is the two-way binding feature and the live view that it gives you. And that is precisely the point where AngularJS wins the race. It's just so much clean as compared to jQuery. The application that we have written is really small, but still you would appreciate that there is no JavaScript that is needed to write up this application. So that's about how you write your first application and a little comparison between these two technologies. Stay tuned for more videos coming up on the TKHTS channel. Thank you so much for watching.